I cannot repeat often enough that election is God's choosing us in Christ. I emphasize again that men are not lost because they have not been elected. They are lost because they are sinners, and that is the way they want it, and that is the way they have chosen. The free will of man is never violated because of the election of God. The lost man makes his own choice. Augustine expressed it like this: if there be not free will grace in God, how can he save the world? And if there be not free will in man, how can the world by God be judged? Here again is Paul's strong statement. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. Romans 9:14. Now, if you think that there is some unrighteousness with God, you had better change your mind. I get the impression, in some of the evangelistic campaigns today, that people are asked to come forward, and even that coming forward is doing something. May I say to you, that God says, He is not saving any of us, because we came forward, or because we are nice little boys or nice little girls, or because we have joined a church, or even because we have an inclination to turn to Him. God says that it is because He extends mercy. He had to say that even to Moses. Moses could have gone to the Lord and said, "Look, I'm Moses. I'm leading the children of Israel out of Egypt. I'm really up there at the top. You'd have a problem getting along without me. Therefore, I want you to hear my prayer." If you read his prayers, Moses never prayed like that. It was God who said, "I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and compassion on whom I will have compassion." He told Moses that he was going to hear and answer his prayer, but not because he was Moses, but because, "It is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy." Romans 9:16. My friend, I'm going to be in heaven someday, and I'm not going to be there because Vernon McGee is a nice little boy. He's not. You don't know me like I know myself. If you knew me, you would tune me out right now. But wait a minute, don't tune me out, because if I knew you like you know yourself, I wouldn't even speak to you. So let's stay together, shall we? We are both in the same boat. We are all lost sinners. I will not be in heaven because I am a preacher or because I joined a church. It will not be because I was baptized. I have been sprinkled and immersed. My wife belonged to a Southern Baptist church, and she has always prided herself on being immersed. I tease her, and say it sure will be funny, if we get to heaven and find out the Lord really meant sprinkling after all. I tell her that would leave her out, but I'm safe because I've been baptized both ways. You see, that is ridiculous. None of those things will put a person into heaven. The only reason I'm going to be in heaven is because of the mercy of God. I am a lost sinner. Until you and I are willing to come to God as a nobody, and then let Him make us a somebody, you and I will never be saved. Your best resolutions must totally be waived. Your highest ambitions be crossed. You need never think that you will ever be saved, until first you have learned that you're lost. It is to the lost sinner that God is prepared to extend His mercy. Don't tell me you have intellectual problems, hurdles to get over. The problem with you, and the problem with me, was not that we had trouble with Jonah, or with Noah and the ark. Our problem today is that the Bible condemns the sin in our lives. God will save you when your heart is willing to turn to Him. He's planned it like this, in order that He might bring you and me into heaven someday, and when we get there, we are going to find out that He's the one who did it. Now, in verse 5, we come to the next thing God did for us, in love having predestinated us. Some are going to say that they never knew you could get predestination and love together, even in the same county, let alone in the same verse. But here they are. God's love is involved in this word, which has been frightful to a great many people. The word predestination comes from the Greek, proorezos, and it literally means to define, to mark out, to set apart. It means to horizon. If you go outside and look around, especially if you're in flat country, you only can see to the horizon. You're horizoned, you're put in that area. When it refers to God, predestination has to do with God's purpose with those He chooses. Predestination is never used in reference to unsaved people. God has never predestinated anybody to be lost. If you are lost, it is because you have rejected God's remedy. It is like a dying man, to whom the doctor offers curing medicine. If you take this, it'll heal you. The man looks at the doctor in amazement and says, "I don't believe you." Now, the man dies, and the doctor's report says he died of a certain disease, and that's accurate. But may I say to you, there was a remedy, and he actually died because he didn't take the remedy. God has provided a remedy. Let me repeat, God has never predestined anybody to be lost. That's where your free will comes in, and you have to determine for yourself what your choice will be. Predestination refers only to those who are saved. What it actually means is that when God starts out with 100 sheep, He is going to come through with 100 sheep. And we know that all things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose. For whom He did foreknow, He also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of His Son, that He might be the firstborn among many brethren. Romans 8:28-29. Dr. R. A. Torrey used to say, that this is a wonderful pillow for a tired heart. Those who are called according to His purpose, are predestinated to be conformed to the image of His Son. We're talking now about saved people. Romans goes on to explain how this is done. Moreover, whom He did predestinate, them He also called, and whom He called, them He also justified, and whom He justified, them He also glorified. Romans 8:30. When God starts out with 100 sheep, He will come through with 100 sheep. You must admit that that is a good percentage.